Putting y'all in my little. Okay, wait. Ah, you crooked. You crooked. Crooked. I just did that. Crooked. All right, very good. All right. Ooh, that's dark. Hold on. 1 sec. I'll be right back. Light. Okay. That's one light. All right. That's better. It looks kind of boring. Hold on 1 sec. Wait. Okay. Isn't that pretty? All right. Very good. Hey, YouTube. For some reason, Christmas lights and my little daylight bulb over here makes me feel professional. Now, I also am too lazy to go out to the house and change out of my suit, which I preached in tonight, to more comfortable clothes. So, that's where I'm at tonight. All right, we're doing episode 31. I'm about to start up the actual podcast. For those that are wanting the little introductions and the, in a world of namby-bamby Bible studies, you're going to have to go to the actual Libsyn site. You're going to have to subscribe to that, and that will be well produced. All right, before we get started, we're going to do another section of Matthew 24. And for those that you're like, I'm tired of Matthew 24. All right, well, catch me later, because I'm determined. Number one, I'm determined not to get in a hurry. And number two, I'm determined to finish it. So catch me later on. All right, and we'll go from there. All right, so let me get this thing started up. Hope everybody's doing good. This week, it may be the change of weather. It may be because I've started to eat sugar again instead of doing like the ketosis thing, but I have felt like garbage. Been real tired and sleepy and lethargic and sad. I don't have no reason to be sad. I'm just, I don't know. I want to be a Debbie Downer. No. All right. So anyway, so here we got this. All right. All right, and so this should be ready to go. Let me go ahead and start this. Give my 5 seconds of silence so I can do the noise reduction, and then we'll get into the podcast. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Hard Verses Podcast, episode 31. Now, I don't have a title for this. I did have a title for 4 episodes ago, talking about Matthew 24, end times, and with question mark. I really don't have a snappy title, but for those who are just coming in, I don't want to necessarily apologize, but I will encourage you to go back to number 1, the episode, I think episode 27 maybe. Anyway, go back and it says Matthew 24 and Luke. It's got them 2 passages there. And go back and familiarize yourself. I had done 1 episode just on the background of it. And so go back, listen to those. And then we're going to be a little bit down into the text. Now, I'm going to do it like a section at a time. We're going to do a small section. I'm going to cover some commentaries, and it's going to be all yours. But in Matthew 24, it would go down to verse 15. Now, we did cover verses 1 through 14. All right, and then we went to verse 15. Now, verse 15 is, it says, "And when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them that be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down or take anything out of his house. neither let him that is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. I just realized I have already covered this material. So what do? Well, let me tell you what I did. I found some more material on this, and my memory is failing me. So for those that are big fans of Flowers of Algernon, this might be an experiment very much like that. And if you're just like, what is Flowers for Algernon? Okay, go look it up. I remember reading it in, I think it's in high school. Basically where a guy starts losing his memory and you see his writings. But anyway, okay, this might be a Flowers for Algernon show. And which should be great. It'll be great entertainment, I promise. Okay, but I did find it, so let's keep reading. I found some juicy nuggets that I was very interested in. So that's what y'all are getting this evening. Even though I may have covered this about the local event and all that, stay with me because there's another juicy nugget in here. Woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on a Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Verse 22, and except those days should be shortened, there should be no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. All right, verse 23. Then if any man shall say to you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs, false prophets, shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even into the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now let me keep reading. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Now, I'll stop on verse 35 because remember when we went through this and I said, well, that doesn't really narrow it down. I'd say, rumors of war. Okay, that don't narrow down anything because there's always rumors of war and wars and rumors. There's always in my life, there's always wars and rumors. Matter of fact, North Korea, wars and rumors of wars. It doesn't quit. And if it's not with America, it's with, Israel and those fighting against Israel. 35 narrows it down. All right, so 34 narrows it down. Verily or truly I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. All right, so that narrows it down. Now it could be, and I have heard this, that there is some standing there, like let's say John, and that John never died. John miraculously lived on and on and on. And in 2018, he's at a Subway somewhere sitting down eating. I've heard that. Why? Because to make this verse work and to make it seem like Jesus' second coming is about to occur now, because that is pointing to the second coming, then you have to do that to make it work. You got to have somebody living to this point. But it would make more sense that it's not talking about the second coming. You said, but wait a second, preacher, wait a second. Didn't it say, and shall send his angels with a great sound of trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds from one end of heaven to the other? Doesn't that sound like the second coming? Yeah. And you go on down and you say, and verse 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Isn't that what he said when he ascended up? Them angels said, we'll see him again, come back. There's his clouds of glory. Yeah. Okay. Now this is why Homer Haley says it's not in order. This is the reason why Homer Haley is like, it's obviously not in order. And that's why Homer Haley at the end of it also, this verse 35, 34 and 35, this generation, well, it's obviously talking about the Jewish generation, or that it's talking about the peoples, not just that generation. That's why he has to say that, because if those are attributed to the second coming, then you have to make some other assumptions to make it work. But is there a way that it's actually in order and that it actually makes sense, and that he describes the destruction of Jerusalem and then describes the second coming of Christ? Well, I propose there is. And stay with me, because when I had taken this class in preacher training, and we had to stop the class. Well, wait a minute, it says this. But when you look at the words and where else they are used that way, well, one of the best things you can do is to go back and look at the way these words are used and see, or for instance, wouldn't it be great if God said that he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, and then it actually describes the event as it occurs? All right, one of the things that I want to bring up is the prophets back in Isaiah. Well, any of the prophets, you go back, and there's what you call apocalyptic language. Now, I can make that case without a doubt, because when it talks about the sun being darkened and the stars falling down from the skies, Isaiah talked about that exact same thing. Matter of fact, when you look here, and I'll look over here and pull up my little note. Let's see here. I'm going to unbutton my jacket. Getting here almost preaching. It's the suit. I'm telling you, the suit makes me want to preach. All right, and we go. The days be shortened. Coming a man, that they darken the moon. All right, okay, Matthew 24:29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. All right, if we were to look at our TSK, okay, now what is TSK? That is our Treasury of Scriptural Knowledge. It is a book, and you can also get it in electronic form and eSword, and in that will give you verses that relate to the verse you're looking at. Okay, so let's see. It says, Isaiah 13:10. All right, Isaiah 13:10 says, for the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Okay, what is Isaiah 13 talking about? All right, well, let's go back and look at Isaiah 13. It's because that's exact wording for this. And to see how Daniel was, when you think about it, you're talking about a lot of figurative language. When he talks about the bear and the lion and the eagle, and they're not really lions and eagles and things that are coming down. They're figurative. When you go to Revelation, the dragon awaiting the birth of the baby to eat it, that's figurative. That's not an actual in the sky seeing a dragon and a woman giving birth. It's figurative. All right. So going back to Isaiah 13. Isaiah 13. All right, Isaiah 13. All right. Now, the top heading of Isaiah 13 is the judgment of Babylon. All right, so it says the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. All right, he goes on. Noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as a great people, tumultuous noise of kingdom of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustered the host of the battle. It sounds like God is there himself. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord. It sounds like God himself. And the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. It sounds like God himself. Where are you at, preacher? Verse 5. So Isaiah 13:5. Verse 6. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. That sounds like God is coming himself. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Verse 9. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Verse 10. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in its going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease. I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. Verse 12. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man with a golden wedge of Ophir. Verse 13. Therefore will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts in the day of his fierce anger. It sounds like the second coming, don't it? Verse 14. It shall be as the chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. Verse 15. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through. Everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. All right, verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. Now, for those that are known about history, Babylon was taken over by the Medo-Persians. You know, I say you can argue with me about with that word the Persians at the Medes. Well, the Medo-Persians were after the Babylonians. All right. Verse 19. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, excellency shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But the wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. Babylon was not the end of the world. But notice the words that are used. Now, when Babylon was taken over, it was horrendous. I mean, it was a bloodbath. It was bad. And Babylon and those inhabitants there was no recovering from it. So when I take it to Isaiah 13, that's just one that came up. Now, I think Isaiah 10 is another one that describes it that way. And actually it says Isaiah 13, Isaiah 34, Ezekiel 30, Joel 2, Joel 2, that's the day of the Lord, Amos 5, Zephaniah 1, Zephaniah 2, Malachi 4, and then you got 1 Thessalonians 5, which would talk about the second coming. All right. So anyway, the day of the Lord. Does it have to be actually God coming, or is it just the fact that he is sending those who are pre-appointed to do his job? The Medes, they were God's soldiers going in there and taking care of business. And he would deal with the Medes later. But anyway, so going back, Matthew 24, that's the reason why when this language comes up and it talks about all these celestial things occurring and the power of God coming in, this has already been described, talking about the armies that come in that God uses, which would put it back in order, and it would put it back into that generation. You don't have to actually make, the case that John is living to be, in his, over 1,000 years old. You don't have to do that. But it could be during that generation, because the destruction of Jerusalem is going to be during that generation. It's going to be horrendous. Okay, but you say, but didn't you have a golden nugget, a juicy nugget? Yes, I found a juicy nugget. All right, so going over here, I want to say it was 24. And we go down to there. Yeah. All right, one of the things that we see, And I'm in the wrong section, guys. Hold on 1 second. It's a podcast, so I can make y'all wait. Here we go. This is the golden nugget that I found. Going back up to where it says about the abomination of desolation, Burton Kaufman had this little historical fact that he pulled from Josephus. All right, where it says, when therefore ye see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, let him that readeth understand. Then let them that are in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him that is on the housetop not go down to take out the things that are in his house. If you know the history, this makes perfect sense. Okay, let me just read what he says. All right, in this place, Christ again used an expression which was customary for him when quoting the prophets. He did not declare that Daniel said those things, but that it was spoken through Daniel. Good point. Thus referring the message to God as the giver rather than to Daniel who conveyed it. This constitutes a strong witness for the authenticity of the book of Daniel. I concede, or that's not the right word. I agree. I'll say that, but there's a fancy word. I concede. But let's just say I agree. I agree. This it's the beard. The beard. I'm trying to find fancy words as I stroke my beard. All right. This constitutes a strong witness for the authenticity of the book of Daniel. Very good. Here also is a clue to understand the broad implications of the prophecy. The, quote, end spoken of by Daniel was not to take place for a long, long time after the abomination of desolation was set up. And he's referring back to Daniel 12, verse 11. And this proves that the Savior's words apply to that far off and final end of the world, no less than to the end of the Jewish economy, which will be accomplished through the destruction of Jerusalem, okay? Which was accompanied by the shattering of the power of the holy people and the making of an end to the continual burnt offering. And he refers back to Daniel chapter 12, verses 7 through 11. Now understand that continual burnt offering would be what made the Jews Jews. You say, wait, it was circumcision. Yeah, that's part of it. But think about it. When they went to worship, their way of worship was decimated. When that temple was destroyed, the flame went out. Now, there was supposed to be a flame, that God lit, and I don't know after it was destroyed. I don't know exactly how it came back lit after that. But if y'all want to put in the comments how it was and show me where that is, that'd be great. But anyway, the continual burnt offering. When you look at that, and then you look at they're losing the records of the Levitical priesthood in that building to where they cannot prove who is of the lineage of Aaron. That's another. And then the location in which they're supposed to worship is utterly destroyed. All right, so the abomination of desolation is usually held to mean the encirclement of the holy city by the Roman armies prior to its destruction. Now, this is the golden nugget that I found. All right, prior to the destruction, that the Christian might have the opportunity to flee after such a deployment as that he might have appeared impossible due to the encircling armies. And I've asked this question myself. I'm like, if they see Rome surrounding them, how in the world are the Christians going to run out without the Romans getting them and stabbing them? That went through my head. I thought, well, maybe if they looked peaceable and they didn't look like Jews and they didn't look like they were going to fight, that maybe they'd let them through. And it wasn't until they came to the gate and they started throwing rocks at them or whatever that then they decided, oh, let's start killing people. I mean, all these things went through my head. But I did ask that question. How did the Christians get out if the Romans were surrounding? All right. Stay with me, folks. The juicy nugget. But the army of Titus, commanded by Cestius Gallus, for some inexplicable reason, lifted the siege, providing the Christians a chance to escape. You say, where did he find that? Well, guess what? I got this book here, The Complete Works of Josephus, and did I know it? Why? No, I didn't, because I have not read this whole thing. Why? Because it reads like an encyclopedia. but Burton Kaufman did. Thank you, Burton Kaufman. He is now dead, but thank you to the family of Burton Kaufman. For some inexplicable reason, lifted the siege, providing the Christians a chance to escape. In Book 2 of his Wars, Section 24, Josephus said, quote, "For Cestius removed his army, and having received no loss, very unadvisedly departed from the city. He came up to siege, and for some reason backed off." All right? The reference to taking the thing out of one's house was to emphasize the need for haste and urgency. It is a historical fact that the Christians did, in fact, take flight to safety during the brief respite allowed them by Gallus' withdrawal. My friends, that's a juicy nugget. Now, I bring that up to say the more you dig into this, the more it makes sense. And the more it is pointing to the destruction of Jerusalem in this first section. Abomination of desolation, talked by Daniel, was foretelling of that Roman, that Roman army that's going to come in. Part of it, they were bringing in their pagan, they had the eagles. They had like the eagles, which I think where you see the eagles flying, I think it's funny that later on you say where you see the eagles flying, there you'll see the carcasses. Interesting. Could that be a connection? Maybe. That's later on. But the other side of that is that this prophecy of Daniel seems to be pointing to the destruction of Jerusalem. And we know it's a local event. I've already made this point that so you flee to Judea. If Jesus comes again, it doesn't matter where you flee to. Okay, you're not going to have the mountains to flee to. This is a local event. Why is he not saying those in Birmingham, Alabama better run out to Hoover? No, it's a local event talking about the destruction of Jerusalem. All right, so what I'm going to do, now that I've given you the juicy nugget, and I don't want to, now that you're on this juicy nugget high, I'm going to leave you wanting more. Why? Because I'm almost out of breath. I get excited about this. And I'm going to put a little mark in my Bible. And next week we will get to the next section, and I will try my best to find another juicy nugget, not necessarily from Kaufman, but whoever I can find it from. Probably somebody. If I actually read Josephus' work, I might have juicy nuggets on my own, but it ain't going to happen. I'm sorry. All right, so anyway, Matthew 24, we will stop. Okay. Put a little mark right there. All right, now getting down to business. I have noticed, as I am a stats junkie, that when I start going into these little side projects, for instance, when I do like Matthew 24 part 1, Matthew 24 part 2, Matthew 20, and it continues that after a while you're like, So I've got some people out there that are, I guess you would say, addicted to the one verse, hard verse formula. Give me a hard verse, give me an answer so I can go and impress my friends with the juicy nugget knowledge from hard verses. I know you. I know I'm that guy. I used to really be that guy until I became a preacher, but there's got to be a little more depth to it. So I want to encourage y'all, continue with this. I promise you, I'm not going to be that much longer with it. I'm not going to take my time. I'm not going to get in a hurry. But stay with me. Let's get through this whole study. Hopefully there'll be more questions asked, and I will look into it and try to figure out if I can give you more knowledge if there's something that you want me to go into. Also, one of the reasons why I went into a hard chapter is because of my lack of suggestions for hard verses. I've got a few, and I've looked at them. I'm like, I really don't want to do that. Either because of time restraints or some of them I don't know. And I don't really have any idea how to go look it up. And you think, you're a horrible preacher. Yeah. But I want to encourage you, though. Stay with me. Also, if you are encouraged by the show, there's a few things you need to do. If you are a fan of the show, because I'm not asking for money, and the thing does cost money, okay? It does. It is, I have to pay for hosting, I have to pay for the website, I have to pay for, that's it, hosting website. And about every 2 or 3 months, my wife's like, do we really need this? And I'm like, my people really need, my fans really need this. The only way I know that you really need this is if it's growing, meaning that it means enough to you that you share. And what do I mean by share? It means as it goes on Facebook, you take it and you share it. If you see it on iTunes, you write a review. You put some, stars beside it. If you see it, on Stitcher or whatever, there's a share button on there. Share it. If you're, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to think how. I'm not that creative. I just kind of know what I know. But some of y'all can be creative about ways of spreading the show, and because I think there's enough juicy nuggets that everybody will enjoy it. At least those who want to be challenged a little bit in their Bible study. So anyway, also you can go to the website, preacherbrian.com. That's spell that Brian with a Y. And on it is a very simplified website, and you are welcome. You are welcome, because it was a mess prior to that. But I encourage you to go look at that, because there is also a book I'm starting, Dumbed Down, The American Church. Oh, it's going to be great. I should make a lot of people very happy with that. But it's one of the things I'm desiring is to show we need to quit being dummies when it comes to the Bible. We need to have our scripture down pat when we open our mouth, because once it's out there, it's out there. And I'm sure I've said some dumb things, and I probably need to be held accountable too. But I'm saying we need to elevate our scriptural knowledge when it comes to hard verses, and just go look. Also, let me just give you one other thing. For those that are into music, this has nothing to do with anything religious. Ain't nothing to do with anything spiritual. It is me and my buddies get together and we debate and talk about albums of the best year, the greatest year of music ever is what it's called. And we get together and we talk about albums from 1984, 1994, whatever we are debating is the greatest year of music. And so you can go and visit that, and we started that, and it's just something fun to do. So just letting you know what's going on. Also, if you're interested in the local area here around Flomaton Church of Christ is where I preach at. And you can go to flomatonchurchofchrist.com and see what we're up to. You can see the series that I'm preaching. You can see basically, you can get the notes for the Bible studies we're doing, which are covering Acts and Proverbs now. And all that stuff is Bible material. I mean, it's Bible study material, meaning you can take it, download it, use it for your class at wherever you are teaching at. They're free. They're in PDF form, and you say, where are the answers? You got to look them up. I have the answers. I do. And if you get stuck on something, you can just message me. And you can message me on that Flomaton Church of Christ Facebook page. Or you can find me, Brian Cook, on the Facebook page. Or Preacher Brian on Twitter. There's ways of getting in touch with me. On the website, Hard Verses, YouTube. YouTube. Message me. I will be happy to get back in touch with you. And I do. I do get back in touch. Doesn't matter how crazy it is, how crazy the question is, I will get back with you. I promise. All right. That's all I got for you. Hopefully, I'll have a better week this week as far as keep my attitude in check. I need to have a better attitude. Bad attitude gets a hold of you. Kind of pulls you down. I'm going to blame it on the sugar. So I'm lowering my sugar starting tomorrow. But anyway, I hope to see y'all next week. Y'all keep studying. Get back into Matthew 24. We'll get back with you next week. We will see you later. Bye. I am out of breath. All right. I am buttoning my shirt back up. All right, YouTube. I will see y'all later. If y'all want all the production stuff, all the little fancy, smancy intros and sections without all the... I don't really edit anything. The problem, you get what you get. I do cut the front and the back off of it. You get noise reduction. You get a better quality mic instead of the phone mic. But anyway, and it goes straight into your iTunes. I know a lot of y'all are subscribing through YouTube. That's okay, but I got a bunch of ways to subscribe. I mean, Stitcher's my favorite, and I can be waiting there every week for you, and it just comes up, a new one from Hard Verses. iTunes, same thing. TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio. there's several that come off iTunes. I can't name. I can't. But anyway, wherever you listen to podcast, I'm there. And if not, let me know. I'll put it on there. But anyway, y'all on YouTube, y'all are kind of special. Y'all are the ones that give me all the messages. And so it actually goes off in my pocket. When y'all, this phone that's recording this, it actually goes off when you say something. Can I make a special request that if it has nothing to do with the subject, just message me? I mean, like, if it has nothing to do, I mean, I'm not saying I'm forbidding anybody. I mean, if you just have to tell somebody about your dietary restrictions, or it's not conducive to the discussion. I want discussion, but I want to be on topic. That's all. I'm just saying we need to focus a little more. Focus. Get back to what, the subject at hand. And if the subject's not covered, I mean, you can put something in there like, hey, how about covering this subject right here? That's okay. That's okay. If it reminds you, well, wouldn't it be great if you covered this? That's okay. But getting in there and starting a new thread, no, don't do that. All right. Well, anyway, that's all I got. I'm just kind of long-winded. If y'all need me, let me know. I'm just a few buttons away, and we'll see y'all next week. Thanks, guys.